I thought April would be the calm before the storm in May, with just perhaps a trip to the cinema. Boy, was I wrong. We have a lot to cover. This is Nintendo Maniac with the Nintendo release report of April. Please consider hitting that like button and subscribing. And do let me know with a comment which releases you'll be going for, and of course, if you're missing any. And the first game I have to include is actually still a March game. A YouTuber called PC correctly commented on the March release report that Blade Assault will be released on March 31st, and that's both in the US as in Europe. I may have missed this in the last report, but I have to say, this 2D action game looks promising. It has a clear pixelated style with a cyberpunk vibe, as the distributor Numskull Games calls it. And generally they know their stuff and bring great games to us. The game carries different playable characters with different adjustable weapons set in a sci-fi world. Thanks PC, I'm happy I was able to include this title after all. Fortunately, we can skip April's Fool's Day and go immediately to April 4th for the US or April 7th for Europe, when we have the release of GrimGrimoire OnceMore. This is a remaster of GrimGrimoire that was released back in 2007 for the PlayStation 2. It tells the story of a young mage at a magician's academy, filled with mysteries and monsters. The game prides itself for great world building and storytelling. And besides having improved graphics, the remaster features some new mechanics. You can get the game on the eShop, but there are physical editions. 2 versions will be available. The deluxe edition is the cheaper one, which besides the game has a mini art book and a digital soundtrack. The other version is the limited edition, which is actually limited and contains the deluxe edition, plus a hardcover art book, a 2-disc soundtrack, a cloth poster, an acrylic display, a set of 4 keychains and 5 art cards, which will be contained in a collector's box. The limited edition will only be available at the NIS stores of the US and the UK, not the EU store. Links to those are in the description. What's a Nintendo release report if I didn't include the cinematic release of the Super Mario movie? I think the trailers and commercials have done a good job at showing what it will be about, showcased some of the comedy and how beautiful it all looks, and still keeps how the story will evolve well hidden. When you can go to the cinema to watch it depends a bit on where you live. Most countries will have the movie released on either the 5th or 6th of April. Thanks to a successful Kickstarter campaign, Curse of the Sea Rats will be coming to the Switch, among other consoles, on the 6th of April. It's a Metroidvania-style adventure, featuring 4 heroes transformed into rats by an evil pirate witch. Typically a game that you normally find only on the eShop, but thanks to P-Cube, you can also find this game physically and for a reasonable price of around 30 to 35 euro or dollars. The makers of the horror games Remothered created a totally different game with Batora Lost Haven. In this case, it's a top-down action-adventure RPG, though the RPG side of this game seems to be quite minimal. Combat is what it's mostly about, with duality switching between ranged and melee affinity, which should also be used to solve puzzles. As the other systems already saw their release of this game, reviews are out there and are on the positive side. Just don't expect a AAA game here, or even a long game. I just felt it sort of has a visual charm to it. It's an eShop only release on April 6th. I already said this in my Nintendo Direct reaction, but I still wonder why you take something with spectacular action as TRON and go and make a visual novel. But that said, visual novels have surprised me in a positive way before, and the developer BitHell Games have made some very interesting stuff before. So maybe Disney Tron Identity should be something to be excited about. It had a small feature during the last Nintendo Direct and will now become available on the eShop on April 11th. Last time I checked, Sherlock Holmes is British. Yet on April 11th, his game Sherlock Holmes The Awakened will only become available in the US and only in the eShop. And that's a bummer, because the last 10 to 15 years we mostly saw the world's most famous detective in a more breezy or funny setting. So to see Sherlock Holmes in a Lovecraftian horror setting is rare, especially looking this great. It may be just a remaster of the 2006 game, but if they indeed improved on the original, it may be worth your time, if you live in the US. As the title already suggests, Process of Elimination involves detective work. 14 detectives even, who together have to stop an unknown killer, but not knowing who it is means it could be any one of them. Once they figure that out, perhaps they can figure out why the game is released on April 11th in the US, and we Europeans have to wait till April 14th. Anyway, the announcement trailer makes you think we're dealing with an anime, but it's actually a visual novel. I know a lot of you don't care about those kind of games, but the trailer hyped me up, so don't dismiss this game yet. As usual with NAS releases, we have a deluxe edition that includes the digital soundtrack and the mini art book. And you can find the deluxe edition also within the limited edition, together with the original soundtrack, a hardcover art book and a keychain, all packed in a collector's box. The limited edition is only available at NAS stores in the US and in the UK, of which you will find the links in the description of this video. The Game Boy Advance games have come to the Switch Online expansion pack, but that doesn't include the Mega Man Battle Network games. On April 14th, you can get those games on your Switch though, either by getting the Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection, which has a physical release in the US, or you can get a package deal of 10 games from the eShop. If you prefer the eShop, you can also get the games through 2 smaller packages. Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection Volume 1 contains Mega Man Battle Network 1, 2 and both versions of 3, while Volume 2 contains both versions of games 4, 5 and 6. If you ask me, I think they spent way too much time overcomplicating the re-release of these games. But hey, they at least took the time to add some new features and make it easier to enjoy the story mode. Plus, bring some items previously only available to Japan to the rest of the world. Mask of Mist has been on the eShop for a couple of years, but in my heart I am a physical collector. So I'll go out of my way to point out when such a game gets a physical release. And that'll happen on April 14th, when Red Art Games will be releasing their 2,900 copies. The pre-order link is in the description. This first-person puzzle adventure game looks a bit simplistic, but has some great review scores. So if you're looking for something new to play, go and check this one out. And Red Art Games would like to let you know that their release comes with a manual. On April 18th, we'll see one of the more unique titles of this month with God of Rock. Fighting based on how well you hit buttons of your controller based on the music track, but then they want to add complexity and the whole song becomes a mess. Which is already difficult to hear with all the fighting sounds. But like I said, it's quite unique. So if you're daring or crazy enough to try this one out, the physical version is called the Deluxe Edition and contains the DLC with 6 extra characters, 4 extra stages and 20 extra songs, and goes for a price fitting of an indie game of around €30 or dollars. The Minecraft community has been pretty good at crafting their own world and adventures. So it'll be interesting to see how they will respond to the adventure thrown at them in Minecraft Legends, which will be released on April 18th. The standard edition is eShop only, but the deluxe edition, which contains 6 extra skins, will also be available physically. I really think Disney needs to clean up its act. And paying Nintendo to promote their games is not doing that. But having said that, knowing that kart racing is a bit limited, Disney Speedstorm will at least contribute to that genre on April 18th with the Early Access Founders Pack, only on the Switch eShop. There are 3 different versions available, and while reading the contents of these packs, all I want to add to this is be warned about money grabs. There is an in-game currency that you can earn by reaching certain goals, but you can also buy with real money. I guess you can tell Disney is not paying me to promote their stuff. I'm sure that when you're thinking of exploring an open world with a bow and arrow at the ready, you're thinking of, exactly, the Pathless. It's already available on the eShop, but the physical edition will be releasing on April 18th. However, collectors may want to consider the Nintendo Switch exclusive edition from iam8bit, which has a reversible cover, a fold-out poster, 6 art cards and some exclusive artwork by Elaine Lee. That one is available for pre-order now and is expected to ship sometime in Q2 of this year. Link is in the description. It took Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp nearly 1.5 years to finally be released after delays. But on April 21st, it's finally time to relive these great games originally from the Game Boy Advance. And to be honest, I don't really get the delay. There's a war going on, and that's extremely sad. But first of all, it's still going on right now, and secondly, of all the war games people play these days, Advance Wars probably gives off the least war vibe, with its funny cartoonish graphics and strategic turn-based gameplay. The games are absolute gems on the Game Boy Advance, and this remaster is fully deserved. I just wish Nintendo had done something with the extra time they took to release it, like a special edition or pre-order bonus, but sadly that's not the case. When I was researching Tales of the Neon Sea, I couldn't really figure out if this might be a gem or a mediocre game. This cyberpunk-like adventure puzzle is already out on different platforms for years, and on April 21st the Switch will also get its version. And how the gameplay will translate to the Switch is of course an important factor on how we will experience this game. That said, you can tell that a lot of attention has gone into the pixel art and the soundtrack. And if you have to go by reviews, this should also be the case of the story and the puzzles. There is a collector's edition available, which besides the physical game has some magnets, a poster, the soundtrack on CD and a postcards book, all contained within a collector's box. Since it's a more rare release and not many retailers will offer this, I've put the link to the publisher Tesura Games website where you can order both physical versions. On April 25th we have the sequel to Fairy Fencer F Advent Dark Force, which is Fairy Fencer F Refrain Chord. Unlike its predecessor, this is a tactics RPG that uses the terrain and objects. There is voice acting, but only in Japanese. I know some will love that and some are kind of allergic to it. Besides the standard edition, we have two special versions. The first being the Day 1 edition for the UK and EU that includes a reversible cover, 6 postcards, a sticker sheet and an A2 double-sided poster, all contained in a collector's box. The other is the limited edition, which includes a steelbook, an art book, the soundtrack on 2 CDs, a music book, a reversible cover and an exclusive trading card, all within a collector's box. Links to the IFI stores are in the description below, and at those stores you can also find the trading cards in case you want to collect those too. Metroidvania games are popular, and Afterimage, which comes to the Switch on April 25th, is clearly that, but also reminded me a bit of ActRaiser. Apparently the game art is hand-drawn, though I didn't immediately get that impression to be honest, but I'll say the game looks beautiful, and the combat is definitely fast-paced. If the levels, the characters and the story are also just as good, we may have a gem here. The physical edition is called the Deluxe Edition and contains a reversible cover, the digital art book and digital soundtrack. Trinity Trigger tries to sell itself with the look and feel of the 90s RPGs. I personally don't see that really, but that doesn't mean it can't be good. The heroes of this game are joined by creatures called triggers that can transform into weapons. I'll admit it's not really the same thing, but it kind of made me think of Golden Sun, and might find some influence from that, even though the combat style is totally different. I do see some Square Enix influence when it comes to the art at least. The game comes out on April 25th in the US, while the rest of the world will have to wait till May 16th. There is a Day 1 edition for you Americans that contains a softcover art book and the soundtrack on 2 CDs, packed in a special box. It may be available at some stores, but I'll put a link to the publisher's website where you can order it in the US. The big surprise of the Tears of the Kingdom gameplay presentation was the Switch OLED Tears of the Kingdom edition. These are selling like crazy, so getting your hands on one will be difficult if you haven't already. If you have, you should get it 2 weeks before Tears of the Kingdom releases, so on April 28th. And you can use that time to set up your console correctly, which most likely will need some updates, as these consoles were not updated since summer 2022. The YouTuber Beat'em-Ups mentioned this in his unboxing video. Yeah, he already got one. Don't ask me how. I'll put a link to that video in the description. And those were the releases of April, or at least the physical ones in Europe and in the US, plus some eShop games. If you do miss a release, please let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to correct it. Now before we end the video, let's have a quick look at some important releases that will come later in the year with some specials. A small update on the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom pre-order bonuses. New is that GameStop Canada offered a pin set, or at least before. And it's worth mentioning that Nintendo has some pre-order bonuses that do increase the price at their own stores in Europe. These are a collector's coin, a luggage tag, a notebook and a collector's medal. Not all could be available by now, but as Nintendo still has to start selling their own collector's editions, maybe you'll see these options available again. Besides pre-order bonuses, we of course still have the Tears of the Kingdom Link Amiibo. That'll be available on May 12th. The Tears of the Kingdom Switch Pro controller, also available on May 12th. And the Tears of the Kingdom Switch OLED carrying case and screen protector. Strangely enough, also on May 12th. So you cannot immediately use this for your new Switch OLED, if you got lucky enough. Master Detective Archives Raincoat has a limited edition called Mysteryful Limited Edition, which you may want to consider pre-ordering before the release on June 30th. And as long Hogwarts Legacy hasn't been cancelled for the Switch, the deluxe edition should still become available on July 25th. And with that, we've gone through all the releases of this video. Thanks a lot for watching. Please consider leaving a like and perhaps subscribe for more content from me, Nintendo Maniac. Also, remember to leave a comment telling me what you'll be buying this month. I'm really curious about that. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.